What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam once again. Hashtag homeless. It's day 104. But I do have some interesting developments over the last 24 hours. First things first. You know, there's a lot of things going on this week, and the synchronicity has been very intense lately. A lot of weird things are happening. Good things, but definitely some really cool synchronicity, the kind of stuff. It's at a level this week probably over the last 10 days, it's at a level where I feel like I must be doing something right, because that's usually how God lets me know I'm on the right path. So yesterday, I'm going to have to get myself a cowboy hat. I don't know where I'm going to get one, but I had a feeling yesterday I was going to get this call for a lot of different reasons, mainly because things went very well at the meeting with the restaurant owner, and I should be getting started on some work with him possibly as soon as today, depending on how things go there. I'm a little bit behind on everything I have to do because of some things that happened yesterday, and so I can't wait to get started on a project. That'll be awesome. I'll probably have an update about that tomorrow. And there's more than one project that are on deck, put it that way, that could start as soon as tomorrow. So yeah, it seemed like yesterday, the very minute I was finished with the video checklist of posting these videos, yesterday's video on all the different platforms and doing all the different things I try to do every day, I had someone reach out to me from the probation office down in Pittsburgh to let me know that everything is approved and ready for me to go to Texas. Whew, my goodness, dude. If you could feel the amount of tension that released in my body all at once, you could understand that I was a little bit out of sorts after all of that. And it was a good thing. It was a good out of sorts. The amount of stress that had shut off right at that moment, that was almost stressful in and of itself. It was like a wound up spring that just went boom all at once. And I've had unwinding moments like that in the past, and it's like such a rush of toxicity leaving your body, your mind, and soul that the process of that wears you out. Like I said, I was supposed to do some things yesterday that I kept pushing off after I got this phone call about Texas. And I got to the point where I just had to go out in the sunshine and take a walk. It was a really nice hot day yesterday. It started out a little cool in the morning, but when I was walking down to Target, I looked at my thermometer watch, and the watch told me it was 95 degrees outside, but the watch was on my wrist, which plays with, it makes it less accurate. After the sun went behind the clouds and it was early evening, like 6:30 or so, on my way back to Jamestown from where I had to go, it was telling me it was 85. So I didn't look at the weather app on my phone, so that's the only, but it felt like 95 degrees, that's for sure. It was hot, but it was good. I like it. I was happy to be outside. I was covered in sweat going on an 8-mile walk. And so walking 8 miles, that's what kind of put the kibosh on me getting anything done last night. I came back to the shelter and I didn't fall asleep early. I think, the few nights that I got 11 hours of sleep in a row kind of set the body clock back in check. But I had no energy to do anything yesterday. At first, I was just going to go get a sub at Farm Fresh Foods and go for a short walk, grab a fresh sub, and walk back to town. And as I started walking, it was so nice out, I figured I may as well walk all the way to Target, which is about 3 to 4 miles in each direction. But online, I saw that they had an Apple charging cable, a 240 watt charge cable, USB-C, And I was thinking that that might fix the problems that I'm having with my MacBook battery draining too easily. I need a cable that can handle 96 watts because that's what the specification is for this MacBook. That's what the original power supply that I had for this MacBook was rated at. Now I have a 140 watt power supply, which is perfectly fine to use. You can generally use anything that's at the rating or higher for your Mac. But for months, ever since April, ever since I came home from prison, my charge wattage is maxed out at 60 watts in the system profiler. And so there are certain situations where I'm doing heavy lifting with this Mac, video editing, Adobe Illustrator sometimes, certain other apps, and the battery just starts to drain even though the MacBook is plugged in. And so I've been having issues where if the battery is not at 100% and I start using the Mac, I have a really hard time getting it to charge while I'm using it, and because it's stuck at 60 watts. And so I never remembered that happening before my arrest, but when I came home, the FBI had given me back all my computers that they confiscated, but they never gave me back my power supplies, or at least the power supplies for the Macs and the cables and all that stuff. So I already, in a box of other stuff, I had a 140 watt power supply instead of the 96 watt power supply that this MacBook came with. And so I started using it, and I thought that I was using the proper cable. But like I said, it would never draw more than 60 watts as it was charging. And it should be drawing between 90 and 96. And so everything that I read about troubleshooting this problem was telling me, go get a new cable, go get a new cable. And I just kept putting it off because $30 when you're homeless, you don't have any income. And, for the most part, I'm not having too many serious issues with the MacBook. If the battery's at 100%, the chances of it starting to drain are pretty low. But there are certain things that I'm working on in the last 2 weeks where I look up at the corner and all of a sudden the battery's showing me 75%. And the other night, about 3 days ago, I was using the MacBook for a few hours, wasn't paying any attention, looked up at the corner, it said I have 5% left on the battery. And so even though the MacBook was plugged in, you have to basically keep turning things off and turning the display brightness down until you get to a point where the Mac goes, okay, I can charge again. And so I decided to go get this cable. $30 if it solves all my issues, it's worth it. But I didn't know for sure it was going to work. But then I had this weird synchronicity when I got to Target. And I knew that I did the right thing before I even left the store. I knew this was going to work. When I arrived at Target, I walked back to the Apple section, was looking at all the cables on the wall, and the cable that I needed was missing, even though it said they had them in stock. They pretty much had every single cable you could possibly want except for the cable I came to get. And I was disappointed, but sometimes the website can be wrong. I walked up and down the aisle, and they had a Thunderbolt 4 cable, and I was thinking maybe I'll just get that and see if that'll do the job that I need it to do. And so I was doing some research to see if I use a Thunderbolt 4 cable, which is a USB-C connector. If I use a Thunderbolt 4 cable, would it carry enough power from my power supply to the Mac, and would it allow me to charge my Mac at the proper wattage? And everything that I read online said that it should carry at least about 100 watts, which would be enough. But the cable was almost $70, and I really didn't want to spend that much money taking a chance on a cable that might not work. And so I was just like, you know what? I think I'm just going to leave. Maybe today's not the day. And as soon as I turned around to leave, a guy in a red shirt, Target employee, comes walking over. And he was obviously one of the computer guys. You could just, you can tell. And I asked him, I said, hey man, do you happen to have any of the Apple 240 watt USB-C cables, because your website says you do, but I don't see any, so am I missing something? And he just starts to laugh and he says, here you go. And he hands me one that he was carrying in his hand. He was carrying this thing in his hand when he walked over to me. He told me that he saw it sitting on a random shelf somewhere else in the store because a customer must have just decided they didn't want it and put it in some random place. And he found it and he was bringing it back to put it back in the right spot exactly when I was about to turn around and go home empty-handed. And I was like, wow, dude. And so I told him, I'm like, how crazy that was and the timing of it, how I was just about to leave the store because I didn't see what I was looking for, and here this random guy just walks up to me, here you go. So I knew right then and there that that was God's way of telling me, get the cable, you got this. And it would fix my issue. I knew it was going to fix the issue before I even left the store. I didn't even go back to the homeless shelter for another 2 hours. But when I pulled the cable out of the box, it was pretty obvious that this thing was going to work. This thing was as big around as a fire hose compared to the cables that I was already using. And so, even though my battery was at 100% already and I couldn't really test it, as soon as I went into the system profiler and checked, it said my MacBook was now drawing 94 watts of power instead of 60 as it was before. So that should make a huge difference in both the speed at which it charges, and it should keep my battery from draining as I'm using certain high-powered apps. And if the battery drain issue happens anymore after getting this cable, I don't really think there's anything I can do about it at that point. But that's a 50% increase in charging wattage just by switching the cable. And that should be enough to push it over the top when the MacBook's running hot. And it's, when the processor's being taxed and the fans kick on. So, I probably should have grabbed one of these cables 3 months ago. It would have saved me some hassles, but it really didn't become a problem until I started using some higher power to do the video editing and some of the graphic design work and some of the files that I'm using. This one design project right now that I'm working on, the Illustrator file, is like 150 megabytes, and that's huge for an Adobe Illustrator file. And so that's pushing a lot of processing power when I open and work with that file. So it's just live and learn. You never know. Something stupid like the wrong cable can have such an effect. And another interesting note, I plugged my phone into that charge cable. Sometimes I use that MacBook brick to charge my phone because it charges my phone really fast. And so I plugged my phone into that this morning using the new cable, and my phone wouldn't charge fast at all. So I switched back to the 60 watt cable that I was using on the MacBook before, and my phone charged in less than half the time that it would have if I had continued using the new cable. So it's, when you're having an issue with your phone and charging and all that kind of stuff, even though all USB cables tend to look the same, they're not. Cables can be, devices can be real finicky these days when it comes to the cables that you use. Televisions, not every HDMI cable is the same. You'd be surprised at how many times you might have a problem with, like, say, your Xbox or your Blu-ray player or your whatever device that you have plugged into the back of a TV using an HDMI cable. Sometimes you'd be surprised at, if you're having issues and you're having problems and something's not working right, going to get a more expensive or a better HDMI cable and swapping the cable sometimes fixes all your problems. And I can tell you that I have USB cables that are a certain that have certain connectors on them, and if I get them confused, I have a couple of Garmin GPS watches, and they're about the size of a wristwatch. They're a little bit big and bulkier than what the watch that I'm wearing now, but they take AAA batteries, and the newest one that I have you can run it for 7 straight days on 2 AAA batteries, and it will record your entire GPS needs. It's a very basic display, LCD display, black and white. It just shows a line on a screen, and different, there's different options for showing your speed and your distance, your compass, and lots of other things like that. But when you go to transfer your files, your GPX files from your GPS device to the computer, if you pick the wrong cable, even though it fits, even though the plugs fit, there are certain cables that it won't work with at all. It won't even mount, and then I'll be like, oh man, my device is broke, and I'll start thinking in my head, and I'll be like, wait a minute, grab this other cable, plug that cable in instead, and all of a sudden it works. So keep that in mind. If you're having issues with, like, your phone doesn't charge right, or you've got a device that you plug it into your computer and for some reason it just, your hard drive doesn't mount, or whatever the case may be, always try swapping cables, because cables can go bad, or they can just be the wrong cable for the job. And so, on a MacBook Pro, technically you can use any basic USB-C charger. You can use a basic phone charger to charge your MacBook with now. It's kind of like, but when you do that, it's kind of like plugging your Tesla car into a standard outlet in your house, where it'll take 3 to 4 days to charge your car. But then you go to a Tesla charger at a gas station, and it'll charge your car in 20 minutes. So that's basically yesterday I picked up a cable that'll let me charge my MacBook as if it's plugged into a Tesla charge station instead of a standard wall outlet. And the cable's a lot longer than the ones I've been using for the last few months, which in my situations I've been in lately, the extra flexibility and distance will be nice, because I didn't pack any of the bulky extension cables that Apple gives you when you buy a MacBook. They typically give you an extra, a really thick power cable, but it's like an extension cord. You slide it onto the power brick, and it gives you like an extra 3 or 4 feet. You basically can get up to like 6 to 8 feet of cordage. But I didn't bring the bulky extension cord with me when I packed my backpack to leave the apartment I was living in, because it was just going to be too much weight and space in my backpack. So I just packed a couple of small USB-C cables, and that's what I've been using ever since. And so, but anyway, that's pretty much all I did yesterday. I'm going to do a quick time check here. I'm not going to do a really long video today. We're at about 20 minutes right now. The Texas thing, I am excited and nervous, and everything feels really surreal right now. There were some things yesterday, some other synchronicities I'm not really going to talk about right now. They're for me to figure out. Just certain things I keep seeing over and over and over again as I walk around town. And it's like some sort of sign that goes with something else. And I don't know why I keep seeing these things and what it means. But whatever the case may be, I'm approved. I'm out. I'm out of here. We just, the probation department, they said, hey, you and your friend, you figure out how you're going to get down here. Figure out your logistics. Figure out how it's going to happen. Let us know. I have 2 probation officers one in Pittsburgh and one in Buffalo. I just have to tell them when I know what's going on. I'm going to call them today they left me messages yesterday, and when I called them back, they were out of the office. They've been pretty much they don't really check in on me very often. I haven't seen my probation officer, the one that comes to physically see me. I haven't seen him since I think it was June 2nd or June 5th, one or the other. So it's been 2 months. I think I got a text message from him once in the last 2-month span. And yesterday he called me, but he was calling me to let me know that Texas was approved. And the probation officer that I deal with in Pittsburgh, she called me to let me know that Texas was approved. And so, good to go. All I have to do is come up with a plan, let them know when I'll be there, when I plan on leaving Jamestown, and when I'll be in Texas. And then there'll be some stuff I have to do when I get to Texas. I'll probably have to go into someone's office, fill out some papers. Who knows what else? And from there, honestly, they might come and check on me a couple times when they find out I'm not a fuck up, when they find out that I'm not someone that they're going to have to, follow every day and keep tabs on every day because, he went to prison for Twitter posts. Once they figure out I'm not going to be a problem for them, they're probably not going to be a problem for me. At least that's the impression that I've gotten since the day I was released. It's been pretty laid back compared to the experiences that I hear from other people who have been in jail and then been on probation before. But I also know other people who have been on probation who, I know one person in particular, he was on probation for a year, and he saw the police officer one time. The police officer came to his house one time after he was sentenced to probation. They filled out some papers, they talked, this, that, and the other thing. Now his thing was a misdemeanor. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but he was on probation, I believe, for an entire year. But he saw the police officer one time, like the first week after his sentence of probation. The police came to his house, talked to him, had him fill out some paperwork. He never saw them again. They never called him. They never stopped by. They never asked him to come in and see them. It's basically, you're on probation. It just means stay out of trouble. If you're somebody who's been in and out of trouble over and over and over again, or you did something real heinous or real bad, you might have some problems. If you went to prison for drugs, they might come at you, making you do drug tests every week. And, I've heard of some pretty crazy stories that people have to go through when they're on probation. But like I said, I've also known people who are on probation or who have been on probation where they were just left alone. And it's more like in those situations, it's more of as long as you don't do anything to get in trouble, we're going to leave you alone. But if you go and you get yourself arrested, well, now you're in triple. Now you've got other problems on top of getting arrested. You've also got probation to deal with. And so you're probably, whatever happens to you is going to be double or triple the problems in your life because of the fact that you got arrested and got in trouble when you were already on probation. So, it's been 5 months and I haven't had a single issue. And, I have that. If the only thing I ever did wrong was post some bad things on Twitter, I really don't think I'm going to have too many problems moving forward. But life isn't going to be easy either. Bidenomics is wrecking all of our situations, and even my friend that I'm moving in with, things are tight right now. You got to spend 3 months' salary to get a week's worth of groceries now. So, that's catching up with everybody. We've still got to go until, the Democrats are going to do everything in their power to cheat in November. They already are. Robert Kennedy, he dropped out of the race, and they won't take him off the ballots in all these different states that he's trying. I'm not running anymore. Take me off the ballot. They're not taking them off the ballot in all these different states. But when the Democrats want somebody off the ballot, they get removed from the ballot. But see, what's going on is the Democrats have already had to print up a bunch of fake ballots twice now. They had to throw away all the fake ballots with all the votes for Joe Biden stamped on them. They had to throw those all in the incinerator, print all a bunch of new ones with Kamala Harris on them. And now if they have to take RFK off of the ballots, they're going to have to throw them away again and create a whole bunch more fake ballots with Kamala Harris on them that don't have RFK on the ballots as well. So, and then, think about this. If Kamala Harris goes down the toilet and her ratings plummet, the Democrats might find a way to replace her and swap her out on the ballot in all 50 states and put someone new on the ballot. And if they go and do that, they're going to have to throw away all these fake ballots again, and they're going to have to print a whole bunch of new ones for the third time. So they're just trying to avoid having to do extra work between now and November. And who knows, man? I hope they do replace her with somebody else, because all these people in Jamestown who I see that were flying their Joe Biden flags outside of their house, then they had to take down all their flags and buy a bunch of Kamala Harris flags and hang them up all around their house and in their yard. They're going to have to go back and buy a whole bunch more flags again. And I think that would be hysterical. So, I'm just waiting for that. And that's the only reason I want to see it happen, is because I want to see all these people having to waste their money again to go buy a bunch more flags for some other douchebag candidate that they had absolutely no say with voting for. I had someone on my channel yesterday, one of the trolls showed up, said that I used to be I'm just ad-libbing because I'm not reading the actual comment right now. But he basically said, I used to be a subscriber, but all you do now is complain about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and now you're making fun of the illegal immigrants that come to our country, and I've had enough. I am no longer a subscriber. Great. Okay, bye. You know how many people unsubscribe in the span of a week whenever I be real about stuff? More than I can count. But yet, the subscriber count week after week keeps going up. Every time I say something I'm not supposed to, YouTube drops the number of impressions that my channel gets by half. Every time. It coincides. I can look at the graph. Adam said something he wasn't supposed to. The impressions dropped by 50%. Oh, Adam said something else he wasn't supposed to. 50% drop again. YouTube hasn't cut me off because they like making money off of the ads that they run before my videos. It's kind of a catch-22 in their situation, but they're definitely slowing down my growth every time I say something I'm not supposed to say. But here we are. We're hashtag homeless day 104. Let me think here. 114. I'm going to say by hashtag homeless 120, I'll probably be hashtag road trip, and then it'll be hashtag comeback or something like that. I don't know. I'm going to come up with a different hashtag for the different stages of this, but I'm still going to do hashtag homeless as long as I'm living in a homeless shelter. But the day that my friend comes to pick me up, or the day that I get in a rental car and start driving to Texas, however this is going to work out, we got to work out the logistics of this. Once we figure out what we're doing, and once I leave the homeless shelter, I'm no longer homeless. I mean, we're talking about just driving straight from Jamestown, New York to Texas in one shot, with a stopover in Pittsburgh to see my kids and get some of my personal belongings, whatever we can fit in a vehicle, whatever vehicle it happens to be. But, it's just going to be fly by the seat of our pants. It's just a lot of, it's hard. I mean, Texas is a long drive. It's going to probably be from here going straight there. It's probably a 24-hour drive, and we'll probably We're talking about just doing it in one shot without stopping, without staying in a hotel, just taking shifts at the wheel and driving straight through. And I'm fine with that. I do that. I used to do that for fun. So I can go on a 24-hour drive by myself without having to switch on and off. Just, give me enough coffee and I'm good to go. I've done it more than once. It would be nice to be able to make a couple stops, maybe take some cool photos or whatever, and make it a more enjoyable road trip. But this really isn't about having fun. This is about meeting an objective, getting something done, and moving on with life and starting to build something. And the quicker we get this done, the better for everybody. So I think it's probably just going to be one straight shot road trip on the interstate, stopping for gas, stopping for nasty food, and stopping for coffee. And I think that's how it's going to go. So that's fine with me, whatever at this point. And hopefully I can get my stuff together when I get to Houston and get my own place. I've been looking at rental properties down there just to see what I'm in for. And if I can get 2 of these projects that are on deck, I would have enough money in my pocket when I arrive in Houston to start looking for a place to live right off the bat. So I wouldn't even have to be a burden on my friend for a really long time. Maybe I'll sit tight for a month to whatever, see if I can gain some momentum and some reoccurring income so that I don't get to a point where I get an apartment and then have no way to pay for the 3rd month's rent. But, if a couple of these projects take off, I'll be in good shape financially. And if I'm willing to live in a tiny apartment, I can get an apartment in Galveston right on the beach for affordable, less money than I was paying for my house in Pennsylvania when I got arrested. And all I really care about right now is having a bathroom, a kitchen. It doesn't have to be a big kitchen. It could be a camping kitchen for all I care. A place to cook my food, a refrigerator, a place to sleep, and a place to sit and do my work is pretty much all I need right now. And walking distance to whatever, bicycling distance to whatever. I don't think I would be too bad off having an apartment that's 3 blocks away from the beach in January when it's 75 degrees outside. I don't think I would mind that at all, to tell you the truth. That would be something to look forward to. So I don't know. I got all kinds of ideas in my head right now, but I know that the research I've done, just the general what's available. There's tons of places to live in Houston. There's tons of available apartments. There's tons of houses for rent. There's so many that even with my criminal background and all that stuff, I shouldn't have, I may have to go through some hassles to get a place, but I should be able to get a place at some point. And if I play my cards right, I might be able to get a place that's good. A nice place near the beach would be ideal. That would be a nice change of pace. But whatever. I'm open-minded right now. Some of the things here in Jamestown were starting to really open up in the last week or two, to the point where if I was supposed to stay here, if they called me and told me that Texas fell through, there are opportunities popping up here in Jamestown all of a sudden that might have been able to get me through the winter and get me back on my feet and get me established here in town. But right now I'm taking the path of least resistance, because I just need to get a roof over my head, a door that I can shut, and a bed that I can sleep in, and actually sleep as long as my body tells me I need to sleep. Even if it's just for the first few days when I get to Texas, adjust to the time zone difference. It's only an hour difference, but I can see myself needing like 2 to 3 days to get my body just needs to acclimatize and to kind of just get into a better frame of mind. And from there, I'm going to have all kinds of energy. And knowing that I get to skip winter, woo, that's a huge, huge, huge thing, to not having to deal with winter. Like just taking a pass and saying, you know what? I don't have to deal with winter this year. Oh my goodness, that right there is just unbelievable. I don't even need a coat because the coldest day in Houston is going to be, sweater weather for me. Because I don't even really need to wear a coat until it's, until we're down below 40 degrees. I don't need a coat. A long sleeve shirt usually does the trick for me. But my tolerance of the cold below 32 degrees, when water freezes, I freeze. That's basically the general rule of thumb. And the colder it gets below 32, the more I'm just like, Below 32, I could be indoors in a house that's 75 degrees with a heater running, and I'll still feel cold, and my bones will still be sore, and my body will ache, and it'll feel like I'll still feel the cold, even though I'm not outside in the cold. But when it's warm out, when it's hot outside, I have a lot more energy. Like I said, yesterday it was like 95 degrees. Sun was baking down. It was a little bit muggy, but not ridiculous. I mean, not like Florida humidity. And I went on an 8-mile walk, and I didn't care. I mean, I was covered in sweat. I had to change my shirt when I got back because I could wring out the sweat. But I wear synthetic shirts right now for a reason, because, they dry quickly. If I was wearing, I don't have any cotton shirts right now that I wear. Cotton kills. Cotton's horrible in the heat. So I can feel sunburn on my shoulders, even though I was wearing a shirt all day. So I got some really good sunshine yesterday, and I feel it today. I have a little bit of, my toes are a little sore. My feet got a little bit soreness from walking 8 miles yesterday, but it felt really good, and I have a lot of energy all of a sudden. And it just, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 days, all the different things that have happened over the last 4 or 5 days, I've got a nice little spring in my step, and things are starting to pick up. And we're at it's like 8:45. I gotta go. I'm gonna wrap this video up here in about 2 minutes. I'm gonna go to the library, get this thing uploaded. I've got to make a couple of phone calls to the probation officers just to let them know that I got their messages and talk to them one-on-one instead of playing phone tag like we did yesterday. Got to send out a bunch of emails. I've still got to do the social services dance, putting in the job, looking for a job. But I'll start looking for a job in Houston now. I'll start filling out job applications down there before I even leave Jamestown. And, I'll try to time it in such a way that, if I get a job interview, I don't have to explain that I don't live there yet. But I can start looking for big boy jobs down in Houston, user experience, software jobs, graphic design, whatever kind of art director jobs that I might be able to find in a bigger city like that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of doors can be open right now. And I also have to reach out and see if I can get some of these freelance projects moving along. And 2 of those, I'm set. I don't have to worry about too much for at least 2 to 3 months. It'll give me some cushion and I should be able to do all the projects, especially having a stable work environment, a stable desk in a room and Wi-Fi, and just being able to sit and work when I want to work, whether it's, 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning or 8 o'clock at night or 3 in the afternoon, whatever it is. If I'm feeling the call to sit in front of my computer, and you've heard what it's like at Tim Hortons here. It sounds like a Las Vegas casino with all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the background. And, having a stable work environment will allow me to do a heck of a lot more. And so I got all kinds of stuff to look forward to right now. And, but yeah, I gotta get me a cowboy hat and try to figure out how I'm gonna fit in when I go down. I gotta change my accent and all that. I don't even know how to do a proper Texas accent, but that's an accent that I could actually pick up and not be ashamed of. When I lived in Pittsburgh for 25 years, there was no way I was going to adopt the Pittsburgh accent and start talking like that. So, but the Texas accent, I could probably, within a couple of years of living down there, make it seem like I've lived there my whole life and just hide the fact that I'm a Yankee who migrated down there to escape the cruel and the cruel and blue Northeast United States. And hopefully, if Texas is going to be the first state to secede from the United States and become its own country, it would be nice to already be living there and have a bona fide life set up down there, because then I'm not going to have to climb the fence to get in. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to wrap this up. The mailing list, free.litgood.com. Sometime between now and the end of the week, I'm going to send out an email for the photography deal that I'm running right now. So if you're on that list, you're going to get another email. I'm going to do these deals about once a quarter. So once every 3 months, you might get 3 emails in the span of a few weeks, and then it'll go away for a while. Let's see. From there, shop.litgood.com if you want to look at the photography that I have for sale. Once I get some of the things off my plate that are piled up right now, I'm going to add another 10 photographs. I'm probably going to add 10 at a time, and until I get, once I have a few hundred images up there for sale, there will be a lot more variety, a lot more. The store already looks like it's somewhat established now, because when you go to the shop.litgood.com, you see, I think there's 20 photographs up there for sale now. But I still want to get to the point where I've got, I would like to get up to 50 for sale on all of the stores. So, but I've got a lot of stuff on my plate right now, so that's taken it's lower on the priority list. Obviously, if I have clients who want work done, that's at the top of the priority list. And then from there, I've got a few other things, plus moving to Texas. So I definitely have a full schedule coming up. So I'm going to get to it. Once again, the digital chicken bucket. Thank you to everybody who donated there. I always send out thank you emails if somebody drops some bones in the chicken bucket. But if you did not get one, check your spam folder, because every now and then people tell me that I sent them an email, but it landed in their spam folder for whatever reason. And I had a guy, a prospect, he emailed me a couple days ago, and his email landed in the spam folder. So always check your spam folder. Let's see. So yeah, once again, the digital chicken bucket, it's at donate.litgood.com. And once again, for all the people who've thrown some bones in that bucket over the last couple of weeks, I thank you, because that has made life a heck of a lot easier over the last few weeks, that's for sure. I've had to buy a lot of iced coffee at Tim Hortons to be able to sit there and use their Wi-Fi. I had to buy a $30 cable for my MacBook, but that came off of the EBT cash card because I went and bought it at Target. So that was, you guys paid for that whether you wanted to or not. And let's see. Other than that, I don't got much else to say. So we're at 43 minutes, 44. So I'm going to wrap it up for today, and hope you guys have a good one. Peace out. Talk to you tomorrow.